Yes. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Buenos días. Thank you, teacher, for joining us in this conversation today. Good evening to you. For us, it's in the morning. Maybe today is a Sunday. Many people are taking breakfast in America. But for you, it's the evening. So thank you very much for your time on the Sunday evening.
Yes, hopefully it's not too late to have a dinner tonight for you.
I already finished the dinner, so it's good. I'm usually...
Excellent. Thank you so much for that.
Ok, buenos días a todos, a nuestros queridos amigos en todas del habla hispana que nos están escuchando. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en este Facebook Live del día de hoy. Estamos muy honrados de estar con el profesor Kausthub Desikachar, nuestro profesor en estos momentos. Estamos estudiando con él algunos aspectos del yoga muy interesantes y estamos súper honrados de que él haya accedido a esta entrevista en el día de hoy. Así que esperamos verlos todos por acá. Por favor, déjenos saber en los comentarios si están por aquí conectados, si nos están viendo, desde dónde nos están viendo y escuchando. Haremos pues la traducción simultánea en lo posible de inglés a español. Entonces, pues vamos a ver cómo va el live. Déjenos sus comentarios si es posible.
Yeah.
Bueno.
A brief introduction.
Bueno, a brief introduction about Professor Kausthub in Spanish. El profesor Kausthub Desikachar es un profesor terapeuta de yoga, quien continúa la tradición clásica del yoga de su abuelo, el legendario Krishnamacharya, conocido como el padre del yoga moderno, y su padre T.K.V. Desikachar. Kausthub comenzó sus estudios de yoga a los 9 años bajo la guía de su padre y comenzó a enseñar a la edad de 13 años. Posee un doctorado de yoga en la Universidad de Madras y entre otros estudios, y dirige profesorados de yoga alrededor del mundo. Bueno, obviamente ahora por la situación del COVID no es posible. Y autor de varios libros que, entre otros temas, por supuesto, promueven el bienestar físico, emocional, social y espiritual. Nosotros somos María y Andrés Aljadra Yoga Studio. Estamos ubicados en el sur de Colombia, en Popayán. Tenemos nuestro estudio de yoga aquí hace 5 años. Hemos estado muy comprometidos con la enseñanza del yoga desde la forma más tradicional posible. Tratamos de transmitir esta práctica desde su concepto más puro posible para pues aclarar muchas cosas que pues están viendo acerca de la popularidad del yoga. Entonces, muchas gracias. Buenos días, Juan Pablo, Isabel. We have some people now here with us, most of our students. Isabel is seeing the Ana Cecilia, Yasmín, hola. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Vamos a hacer una pequeña invocación, un poquito cántico antes de iniciar la entrevista. Entonces le cedemos al profesor Kausthub el momento para que haga el cántico. Please, teacher, you can proceed with the chanting.
Sure. Namaste. Namaste, everybody. And I will make a small chant. Sahana bhavatu Sahano bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste, my dear friends.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Muchas
Beautiful
gracias.
chant, as always.
Okay, so of course, a nuestros amigos están invitados también a dejar sus preguntas. Si desean, por supuesto, en inglés o en español, igual las leeremos en inglés para el profesor Kausthub o en español también para el profesor Kausthub. Nosotros tenemos algunas preguntas preparadas y pues las leeremos, por supuesto, en español y para el profesor Kausthub en inglés. Entonces, nuestra primera pregunta sería, ¿cómo el yoga es considerado una tradición? ¿Por qué se le considera una tradición? ¿Y por qué es importante preservarla? So, teacher, why is yoga considered a tradition and why is important to preserve it? Because in today's time, yoga is considered many things. It's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, doing the same concept in America. Almost we have lost our traditions because, of course, the colony with the Spaniards, almost our traditions has gone. So that is important. Why to keep yoga tradition alive? What is that the importance?
There's many dimensions to this. The reason why we have a tradition in yoga is because we believe that the teaching is much more precious than the individual. And when you start guarding the teaching as something that is precious, you will take very good care of it and you will hand it down from one generation to the other because you know that the teaching is going to outlive you. Your life is not going to be eternal, but the teaching is going to stay eternal. So this is one of the reasons why we strongly emphasize in having a tradition. I'll let you translate.
El profesor nos dice que la enseñanza es incluso más valiosa que las personas que la enseñan. Entonces, como la enseñanza trasciende el tiempo, por eso es importante mantenerla como una tradición, ¿sí? Por eso es importante que las enseñanzas, como se mantienen a través del tiempo, es mucho más valioso que en sí mismo lo que es las personas que lo enseñan, lo que lo transmiten. Por eso es, mantener la tradición es importante. Why is considered a tradition? Because of the time, teacher, because is practiced for a long time ago, or why is considered like a tradition more than a physical practice or things like that?
I did not finish my answer. I only gave you a part of it. I'm giving you the space to translate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. So when you look at yoga in this way, that it is something very precious, in one way, what you are doing is you are surrendering your ego. And the more greater you surrender the ego, the more you will learn the knowledge more profoundly. And this is another reason why yoga is presented as a tradition, because it's not the individual that is important, it is the teaching that is important.
Entonces el profesor dice que en nuestra práctica o en la enseñanza del yoga lo que hacemos es primero que todo suprimir el ego, ¿sí? Y entonces así al suprimir el ego y al aceptar las enseñanzas, las aprendemos de una manera mucho más profunda.
And when you start to learn yoga in this way, you realize that it is something that is for our whole life. It's not just for one part of our life, like a set of physical exercises, for example. It is something which will influence every aspect of our life, how we behave, how we will work, how we will have a relationship with our family members, with our neighbors, with the nature. So yoga will have profound impact on holistic aspect of our life, and all that can only be learned when we are studying this for a long time, which only comes when we have a commitment to a teacher student in a tradition for a reasonable amount of time. Otherwise, it's not going to be possible.
El profesor nos dice que, por supuesto, la práctica de yoga debe ser por un largo tiempo, si es posible para toda la vida. Y esto tiene una gran influencia positiva en nuestro comportamiento, beneficios a largo plazo. Entonces, cómo nos comportamos con las relaciones con nuestra familia, nuestra relación con la naturaleza. Al ser una práctica holística, entonces observa todos estos aspectos de nosotros y por ese motivo pues requiere un compromiso a largo plazo para también tener sus beneficios a un largo plazo.
Y también quiero mencionar que el profesor Kausthub menciona que es muy importante que el conocimiento sea transmitido de un maestro a un alumno, que conserve también esa perspectiva de la enseñanza, de la tradición.
So, when we learn yoga in the traditional way, we are digging deep into one well, rather than digging very shallow in many different wells. So we are drinking the essence of the teaching, because the more we dive deeper into the teaching, the more we will transform ourselves, because also time will elapse. And as time elapses, our maturity increases, our capacity to understand deeper teachings increases. So the more we go deep into that tradition, the more we will be able to understand the teaching. I have studied, for example, the Yoga Sutra at least 4 or 5 times with my father. Each time was different, even though the sutras are the same. They're not changed for the 2,500 years. But the interpretation hits a different spot, because each time something opens, because one time you have heard already that opens something, but also some time has passed. So there's a bit of maturity that you have gained to be able to receive something deeper.
Sí, entonces el profesor nos dice que, por supuesto, como es un estudio a largo tiempo, es importante mantener la tradición. Por ejemplo, nos cuenta que él ha estudiado los Yoga Sutras, pues las primeras veces, por supuesto, con su padre T.K.V. Desikachar, unas 4 o 5 veces. Y cada vez que los ha estudiado, ha encontrado nuevos elementos, aunque ha estudiado el mismo sutra varias veces, siempre ha encontrado nuevos elementos, nuevas perspectivas, porque por supuesto también nuestra capacidad de entendimiento va madurando con los años y podremos entender este conocimiento en las diferentes etapas de nuestra vida de una forma diferente. Por eso es un estudio a largo tiempo, un compromiso a largo tiempo.
And the reason why we are honoring the tradition is because sometimes the teaching is passed on in the traditional way, and we may not understand it at one moment of time. And yet, when you revisit it at a later moment of time, that teaching hits a certain spot in your consciousness that opens a door that was not open before. And what I mean by this is even sometimes beyond our lifetime. For example, there may be in the teaching lineage where some students or some teachers in that lineage were not really as great or as bright as their senior teachers or their teachers, but somehow they very sincerely passed the tradition to the next generation where that would open up. So that's why I said it's not about our ego, it's more about our teaching tradition. And this is also the moment we are in right now in the history of yoga, where there's many practitioners of yoga today, but not enough serious practitioners who want to dive deep into the tradition.
El profesor, bueno, mencionaba también en el comentario anterior que lo aconsejable es como profundizar en el conocimiento en un solo camino, no hacer como diferentes, digamos, en el camino espiritual, no hacer diferentes exploraciones o cavar en diferentes huecos, por decirlo así, de forma superficial, sino ir profundo en un solo lugar para encontrar ese conocimiento. Por eso la forma tradicional pasada de forma sincera cobra gran valor en la enseñanza, porque pues como mencionábamos antes, también llega a tocar diferentes aspectos de tu vida de acuerdo a la edad en la que te encuentres, al momento de tu vida que estés viviendo. Entonces, repasar esos conocimientos cada vez de una forma más y más profunda te ayudará a entender un poco más pues este camino, ¿no? Este camino de una forma más, más profunda. Y por eso es importante recibirlo de una tradición, ¿no? Porque...
Sí, remarca el profesor Kausthub la importancia otra vez de que tener un profesor acorde que esté interesado siempre en ir muy profundo dentro de la tradición para transmitirla de esa forma.
And I've seen this in my father's lifetime, for example, where he did not teach many of his students what he received from his own teacher, and he shared certain things with me differently from how he's taught the other students. And when I was studying with him at that time, I didn't understand what he was saying. But it's only now, some years after his death, that these things are opening up and I start to see what the tradition holds. And that's why even some of my long-term students who have been with me for many years, they say, well, now you are teaching so differently, even though what I'm teaching is exactly the same as what I've been teaching for the last 20 years. But it has reached in me somewhere deeper and opened up something, and therefore coming out differently as well through me. And I feel it's something that is also going to happen to me, because I keep joking with all my friends that I am the ultimo dinosaurio, which is basically I think I'm probably one of the very few people in the world, probably the last, who studied in the traditional model, the yoga tradition with my father. I think there is not anybody else who came after me who has studied in that traditional approach. And so I'm hoping that by the time I die, there may be a revival that will happen. Otherwise, it may happen after my lifetime, which is also fine. And that is why the tradition is so important, because the tradition is more important than the individual. I'm not so great, but the tradition I belong to is very great, because it has had teachers passing down the teaching for thousands of years.
Sí, bueno, el profesor Kausthub aquí ha hecho un punto muy importante, ha dicho algo muy importante, y es que muchas veces sus estudiantes que han estado junto a él tomando casi que el mismo concepto y lo han vuelto a estudiar con el profesor Kausthub, encuentran una nueva forma. No es porque el profesor Kausthub haya cambiado su forma de enseñanza, sino porque el mismo conocimiento en sí es tan profundo que se puede ver desde diferentes ópticas. Y esto es lo que hace más importante cuando él recibió el conocimiento de su padre, porque él ha podido mantenerlo, ha podido consolidarlo en su forma, en su propia apreciación, y poderlo transmitir de la mejor forma tradicional posible.
Y que por supuesto él espera que cuando ya no esté pues en este mundo, que pueda pues continuar su legado, que venga alguien después que pueda seguir transmitiendo esta enseñanza tradicional y que se pueda seguir manteniendo. Entonces ese es como su objetivo primordial, y pues esperamos que así sea. So we hope, teacher, that you have a successor.
Yes, indeed.
We hope, teacher, that you have a successor.
We have Shraddha.
I too have Shraddha, because my daughter's name is Shraddha, but I'm not the boss of these kind of things, because these are all things that the God has to decide. Because my grandfather had 6 children, but only 2 of them were dedicating themselves to yoga. my father has 3 children, and I'm the one who is dedicating my life to yoga, even though my sister practices and teaches a little bit. She's not able to dive as deeply as me because she has family commitments. So we don't know about all these things. We will see what happens. Time will tell.
Sí, el profesor nos dice bueno, le decíamos que ojalá pues tenga, digamos, un sucesor después de sus enseñanzas, y bueno, tiene en este momento pues está enseñando los Yoga Sutras a su hija, a Shraddha, y Shraddha significa fe o compromiso cuando haces algo, de sánscrito al español. We say that Shraddha is meaning fe or faith in English, and fe in Spanish.
Yeah.
Or commitment. So, entonces él espera que, por supuesto, este conocimiento pueda pasarse a ella, aunque por supuesto no se siente dueño de ningún conocimiento, pero que, pues, por ejemplo, teniendo en cuenta que su padre, T.K.V. Desikachar, tuvo 2 hijos, solamente 2 de ellos se dedicaron a la enseñanza, 2 de sus hijos, o sea, él tuvo 6, pero 2 de ellos se dedicaron a la enseñanza y al conocimiento profundo del yoga, porque pues otros por sus diferentes compromisos familiares, una de sus hermanas pues es madre, entonces esto hace pues digamos entrar a este estudio profundo un poco más difícil. Entonces eso es lo que él nos expresaba. Okay, teacher, so the next question will be, I will say in Spanish, the traditional, ¿cómo debería ser la enseñanza o la manera correcta de enseñar yoga en el mundo moderno, ¿sí? Sin perder los 3 propósitos más importantes: la salud, la sanación y la espiritualidad. Entonces, profesor, how yoga should be, what should be the right way to teach yoga in modern times, keeping in mind the 3 main purposes of yoga, no? The health, the healing, and the spirituality.
Allow me to mention before that in native tradition here in America, the transmission of the knowledge has been oral, not even writing. So many of the teachings are not allowed for, let's say, to us. Only the ethnical groups can get the knowledge, and very few people can get the knowledge of the natives, let's say that in that way. But yeah, just to give you a context.
I have been very privileged to meet very extraordinary healers from different traditions. And one of the healers I met in Australia is a man called David Toonier. He's an Aboriginal man, and he was a very great healer from the Melbourne region. He was living in the Melbourne region, but his tribe came a little bit inside in Victoria. And one of the things he actually told me was something very similar. He said, the yoga tradition is not going to last very long because you yogis, you give away your teaching too easily to these white people. It's exactly what he said. And the reason is because yoga is not really taught in the traditional way now, where the teacher and the student sit in front of each other and actually correspond in the oral tradition. Because when you have to learn in the oral tradition, you have to really connect heart to heart and listen to very carefully to what the teacher has to say. This is why I say I'm the last dinosaur, because that is what my father did. When I started studying the Yoga Sutra, there was not so many books published on the Yoga Sutra, and my father did not allow anything in the beginning. I would have to come and listen to him, and next day repeat what I've remembered. And if I don't remember, He would say, go, remember, and come back. He would not tell it again. He would say, go, remember, and come back. And somehow that forced me to listen and pay so much attention. So in some ways, this is how the traditional teachings were taught. And of course, now yoga has reached a lot of people who are not from the same tradition as India. So my suggestion is always that we have to teach it with care to three things. Firstly, I would say that we have to teach it consciously. Consciously meaning we as a teacher must teach very consciously to the students who are in turn very conscious about it. If somebody is very casual about it, I think we should not teach them, because then that there comes the damage that yoga brings. And that is what is happening to the yoga field today. There are too many casual practitioners of yoga who want to be teachers of yoga, and that is where there is the danger. So that is what is the first thing, to teach yoga consciously. The second thing is to teach yoga holistically. That means not to just teach yoga as a physical practice, but to teach it as a holistic practice that includes all the angas of yoga, yoga as a way of living rather than a way of doing, to teach yoga as a way of living, as a way of being. And this is very, very important. That is where all the yamas and the niyamas come, the attitudes come, how we eat, what we eat comes, all these things come. And also not just practice asana, but also engage with pranayama, with mantra, and all these other things as well. So this is the second thing I would say that we need to remember.
Okay, teacher, allow me to translate.
Don't worry. That's why I am here. Don't worry about that, teacher.
Sorry, I forgot.
Entonces el profesor Kausthub nos cuenta que él ha sido muy afortunado de conocer a grandes sanadores, por ejemplo, a un sanador que conoció en Australia. Y pues por supuesto este conocimiento también se ha transmitido en muchas culturas de forma oral, y a quienes no pertenecemos, digamos, a esas tradiciones, pues es mucho más difícil, digamos, que lo podamos aceptar dentro de nosotros, ¿sí? También él aprendió los Yoga Sutras con su padre, con el profesor T.K.V. Desikachar, de forma oral, porque en el tiempo en que él comenzó a estudiarlos, pues no había muchos libros al respecto y no le permitía como tomar notas ni nada, sino que tenía que aprenderlo todo de memoria. Y pues le decía como, ven al día siguiente, dime lo que aprendiste del sutra, y si no lo has aprendido, pues regresa, apréndetelo, memorízalo y regresa. Entonces también en cierta forma el yoga ha sido transmitido de forma oral en algunos momentos, y pues hoy en día es muy importante tener en cuenta que tanto quienes enseñan como quienes reciben la práctica de yoga deben hacer uno de forma consciente, ¿sí? Tanto el profesor debe ser muy consciente con lo que enseña, y el estudiante también debe ser muy consciente de lo que recibe, ¿sí? Y segundo punto, de forma holística. El yoga debe ser visto más como una práctica o una forma de vivir en general, más que simplemente una práctica física. Entonces, envuelve muchos aspectos, los llamas, los niyamas, que son comportamientos hacia los demás, comportamientos hacia nosotros mismos. Entonces debe ser enseñado y recibido también por el estudiante de forma holística, que cubra todos los aspectos de nuestra vida. So that was the two first points.
True. The next thing, the last thing I would say, the third thing is to teach it with integrity. Integrity means to teach what you are capable of teaching. So you have integrity in your own capacity. You teach with integrity also means you teach what is consistent with the traditional teachings, especially consistent with Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. And teach it with integrity means teach it in the right context, in the appropriate time, in the appropriate space, to the appropriate student. So we need to have integrity as well. And this is very important. And that is one of the things that is also missing from yoga, because yoga has now become like a business. And in business, you have to advertise and manipulate and not necessarily have integrity. Yoga is not a business or a profession, it is a dharma. And that is where the concept of integrity comes very importantly. And that is where the deviation has happened in modern yoga, where it has been practiced as a business, not as a dharma.
El tercer aspecto que nos dice el profesor es que, sobre todo quienes enseñamos yoga, debemos hacerlo con integridad, ¿sí? Y lo posible consistente o consecuente con las enseñanzas del maestro Patanjali. Y también es algo que eso se está perdiendo en el mundo de hoy en día en el yoga, porque se está viendo el yoga más como un negocio en el cual tú tienes que persuadir a las personas, darles algunas ideas para que se acerquen a la práctica, y por eso muchos aspectos holísticos de ellos se están perdiendo. Entonces, otro aspecto importante es enseñarlo con integridad, verlo más allá de un negocio. El profesor nos expresa que el yoga y la enseñanza del yoga no es una profesión, ¿sí? Ni es, digamos, un trabajo, sino que es un dharma. Un dharma es esa misión en tu vida, la misión que tienes en tu vida. Teacher, we have a question. Maybe it's okay not to ignore it from one of our students.
But I think you nailed it, teacher. You nailed it, because it's about the realities and the cultures and the importance to adapt the tradition in a proper space, in a proper time.
Oh, yes, yeah. That was the third point, teacher. So, integrity.
Yeah, integrity.
You answered to our students.
I answered the question, yeah.
Ah, okay, these 3 points. So, consciente, holístico, íntegro. I think it's a good time to read one of the questions from the people, maybe. So, sure. Juan Pablo pregunta. ¿Sí? Sí. Ah, bueno. No, si bien es cierto, la tradición es muy importante, no se debe dar.
But we have a comment from one of our students, and allow me to
read it.
Read it, please. María Jiménez. Dice que she is very happy to get in contact with yoga through us, because we could show a little bit about the essence of the yoga in life, the meaning of the yoga in life, and we keep that tradition. So, in a human knowledge, in a healthy and healing process.
Gracias, María, por estar aquí. Okay, teacher. So
let's move on with the third question.
The traditions in Native America were mostly transmitted orally, as we mentioned before. Yeah, perhaps like yoga in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But how then yoga passed from the text, from the sacred text, to the practice?
How was that?
How was the transition? How was that transition? Preguntamos al profesor cómo la enseñanza del yoga, que también en un inicio fue oral, pero que después se compiló en texto, ¿cómo se hizo esa transición de texto a la práctica?
See, yoga is presented as an anushasana, which basically means a teaching that has to be followed, which already implies that there is a teacher and there is a follower, there is a student. And yoga texts, whether it is the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, or it is the Yoga Yajnavalkya Samhita, or the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, none of these texts are detailed manuals. They were only directional guides, they were not detailed manuals. So the traditional way of how the text would come into practice would be that the student would study the text under a teacher who would interpret the text appropriately and convert that into a practice. So, for example, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, some asanas are given, like Paschimottanasana is defined, and they just describe the posture, how it looks. Now, they don't say what you should do in that posture, how you have to get into the posture, how you have to come out of that posture. Those techniques would be taught by the teacher who is teaching you. The text would be like a directional GPS, like a guide, but not a manual. You cannot read a classical text and practice yoga because you don't have the practices there the way it has to be done. They were only directional.
Entonces el profesor nos expresa que por supuesto, pues aunque hay textos de yoga como el Hatha Yoga Pradipika, no se puede tomar como un manual, es decir, no lo puedes aprender desde ahí. Necesitas un profesor competente que pueda comprender y estudiar contigo, en unión, creando esa conexión, pueda estudiar contigo, digamos, el texto y aplicarlo, porque en el texto solamente se menciona cómo hacer el asana, por ejemplo, una asana, como Paschimottanasana, pero no explica de pronto cómo entrar en la asana, cómo salir de la asana, y por ese motivo es necesario un profesor. Entonces, de ahí es como viene la transición del texto a la práctica, a través de un profesor capacitado que pueda guiarte y que pueda entender apropiadamente el texto.
And partially, I also believe that they purposely did it that way because they didn't want students to read the book and learn it by themselves. And that is why sometimes what they did, what they shared in the text, is quite dangerous if you practice it literally as it is given in the text. For instance, in certain pranayama, they say you have to take in a breath, hold your breath till the head, from the top of the head to the bottom of the feet start to vibrate, and then you have to exhale. If somebody does like that now, they will explode. They will have a lot of neurological problems. They will have a lot of breathing problems. They will have a lot of cardiac problems. So they did not want people to directly learn from the book, because if you just take that, it will not work. I give you a modern day metaphor. In the book, in the movie or the book called Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, there is a journal or there is a textbook that is there, how to make the magic potions, which is not really accurate because the Half-Blood Prince make all the refined adjustments. That is when the things work. It's the same way the text as it is not meant to be a guide for practice. We are not meant to be doing like that. This is what many Western people don't understand, because many Western people think that what is said in the text should be done literally, and that is very dangerous.
El profesor nos expresa que precisamente en estos textos posiblemente la enseñanza se ponía allí de esta forma, digamos, deliberada, para que tuvieses que acceder a la ayuda de un profesor. Porque si haces la práctica, como lo dice el texto, por ejemplo, en el Hatha Yoga Pradipika, hay un pranayama que dice que debes inhalar y retener desde la punta de los dedos de los pies hasta el tope de tu cabeza. Entonces, si en el día de hoy, en la actualidad, tú lo haces sin la guía de un maestro, te puede dar problemas cardíacos, dolor de cabeza, puede ser muy, muy peligroso, y por ese motivo es necesario la guía de un maestro. Entonces, él también hacía la analogía de los libros de Harry Potter, en el cual en estos manuales se explica cómo hacer una poción mágica, pero si la haces por ti mismo, sin la guía de alguien que lo conozca, que conozca estos textos, puedes crear una poción peligrosa. Entonces, es lo mismo con el yoga. No puedes aprender yoga leyendo un libro, no puedes aprender yoga si no es con la guía de un maestro en lo posible, pues, en tu presencia. Y si haces estas prácticas desde tu propia perspectiva, leyendo un libro, leyendo un manual, viendo unas fotos, puede ser bastante peligroso. Okay, teacher. Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful presentation.
Teacher, what is like the secret or the formula to teach yoga to keep the yoga relevant still to today in the modern times, having in mind that in your family, you have been in your family teaching yoga for more than 100 years now. So what is the secret or the formula to keep it alive and relevant still to today.
If I told you the secret, it will not be the secret.
I know.
I,
Or maybe like an advice.
the secret is that there is no secret. The only thing that I have realized based on my observation of my father teaching, based on the observation of a little bit of my grandfather teaching, because I was a very young child when my grandfather passed away. I was about 15, so I don't have so much of memories of him teaching, but I have some profound memories. And what I am doing right now, there's only one word that I keep saying to all my students. And it's a simple formula, and I think it is the simple secret. Authenticity. You have to teach from the place of authenticity, and that is what will work. If you are not authentic, the energies will not be aligned, and eventually people will disappear. You may be popular for one part of time if you can lie, and if you are not authentic and somehow marketing yourself to teach, but it will not last a very long time if you are not authentic. So my suggestion is always that teach from a place of authenticity, learn authentic yoga, practice with authenticity, experience authentically all your feelings, whether it's positive or negative, and share and teach with authenticity. This is all that is the basic magic formula. There is no magic formula. I think authenticity is the key. My grandfather and father never deviated from the authentic teaching of yoga, even though society was changing. And that is what we are trying to do now as well. We are not trying to change yoga just to suit modern time. We keep the yoga authentic to the teaching. We may wear shirts and t-shirt. My father and grandfather wore the clothes of their time, but we may look different. But the teaching is not changed. The teaching is authentic. That's all we have to focus on. There's no other formula which is needed.
Bien, el profesor Kausthub nos mencionaba que para él, en realidad, mantener una tradición de diferentes generaciones, desde su abuelo, su padre, y ahora él, durante, digamos, un periodo de 100 años, un poco más, que no hay un secreto. El secreto es básicamente ser auténtico, ser uno mismo en su capacidad de enseñanza, en, por supuesto, mantener la autenticidad del conocimiento, que eso es lo que se va a preservar en el tiempo. Esa es la gran relevancia de mantener un conocimiento sin importar las circunstancias del tiempo, y eso es lo que valida, digamos, o sostiene el proceso, digamos, de la cultura de la enseñanza del yoga.
Y enseñar, pues, también aprender con autenticidad, compartir y enseñar con autenticidad, ser tú mismo, básicamente, ser nosotros mismos. Thank you, teacher. Well, the Aboriginal tribes in America, or of course in other parts of the world, like Australia or New Zealand, as you mentioned before, have a deep connection with nature and the cosmos. Connection with nature for healing purposes, for example, consuming certain sacred plants, to reach higher states of consciousness. Yeah, and you always express the importance of being in touch with nature. You know, how is this view from the yoga tradition? What is maybe the difference with other traditions? I will say in Spanish, sorry. Le pregunto al maestro que nuestras tribus aborígenes de América han tenido o tuvieron en el pasado una conexión muy profunda con la naturaleza y el cosmos. Buscaban estados de conciencia más elevados, por ejemplo, por el consumo de plantas sagradas, Y el profesor Kausthub siempre ha expresado la importancia de conectarnos con la naturaleza. Entonces le preguntamos que cómo es la visión del yoga desde esta perspectiva de la conexión con la naturaleza y el cosmos.
Yoga is very, very closely connected with nature and the cosmos. That's why if you study the Yoga Sutra, you see that Patanjali is talking us to connect with nature, like the sun, like the moon, the stars, and other things like the animals. And so the yoga is definitely honoring the nature very much and being in connection with the nature very much. The difference, I would say, between yoga and perhaps some of the other shamanistic traditions is that in the shamanistic tradition, there needs to be a shaman, a priest, who is administering all these rituals, who is administering all these plant medicinal herbs like ayahuasca that you talked about, etc., which is not done by the person themselves. In yoga, we are asked to self-empower. So only what we can do ourselves is recommended. So, for example, we go for a walk in the nature, we go for a swim in the water, in the lakes, we climb a mountain. These things are that which we can do ourselves. That's what yoga is saying, to have a connection from oneself to nature directly and not through some other person. That's basically the difference. But in spirit, I think it is very consistent that we have to connect with nature in very, very deep and profound ways. That's all, that's common.
El profesor nos dice que también, por supuesto, en la tradición de yoga hay una gran importancia en conectarnos con el cosmos, con la naturaleza, con el sol, con la luna, y por supuesto comprende también la importancia de las tradiciones de otros lugares como América en tomar, por ejemplo, la medicina o la medicina tradicional, las plantas sagradas. Y la diferencia que él vería con la tradición del yoga es que en las tradiciones de América, en buscar estados de conciencia elevados a través de las plantas, debe hacerse a través de un chamán o en Colombia lo llamamos un taita o un sacerdote que dirija estos rituales. La diferencia con el yoga es que se hace un autoempoderamiento del estudiante, es decir, que haces la práctica, digamos, desde tus propias herramientas. Y, por ejemplo, sería una caminata en la naturaleza, meterte a un río, al océano, nadar, subir una montaña. Entonces, estas son prácticas que usas con los recursos de tu propio cuerpo para alcanzar también esos estados de conciencia más profundos. Entonces, eso sería como la única diferencia que él vería entre ambas tradiciones, pero que por supuesto ambas son totalmente válidas y tienen son muy consecuentes con lo que enseñan. Thank you. So we have a couple of questions. Isabel pregunta, quisiera preguntar cómo podemos lograr encontrar un equilibrio entre mantener la tradición milenaria de yoga sin perder las cosas buenas que trae la modernidad. Yeah. Well, so Isabel is asking, how can we find the balance in keeping the tradition of yoga without losing the good things of modern times?
I mean, again, it's coming back to the authenticity, right? So, for example, just because in modern yoga we have beer, it doesn't mean that we have to do beer yoga, because then we are not keeping the tradition authentic. However, for example, in the modern tradition, we have some people who are handicapped who need to practice yoga in a chair. So we can adapt the tools of yoga so that they are able to practice on a chair and not necessarily they have to do the classical asanas. So there we are adapting the modern reality without compromising the teaching of yoga. That's where always come back to the authenticity. We have to take the best of both worlds so that it's a win-win, rather than we take something just because we want to do it. That is not appropriate. That is somehow a cultural appropriation where we are somehow disrespecting the tradition that comes, where a teaching comes from. And it's not just happening in yoga, it's also happening in traditional methods. Like you talked about the ayahuasca plant, and you used the word sacred plants, if I heard it correctly. And the key is not the plant, the key is the sacred part. And many times, if you look at many people who are going like for ayahuasca tourism, they go there as a tourist without the feeling of sacredness. And that is not consistent with the spirit of the native traditions as well. And that is where comes the conflict. We must not sacrifice the sacredness of the tradition just because we want to enjoy something as a consumer. That if we remove the consumer attitude from the approaching these things, most of the things will be okay.
¿Quieres decir? Por ejemplo, lo de la yoga de la cerveza.
Sí, bueno, el profesor Kausthub menciona que no porque exista una bebida conocida como la cerveza, tú vas a hacer el yoga de la cerveza, como se ha visto.
Porque es moderno.
Porque es moderno, como se ha visto en algunos lugares. Eso, digamos, no va en coherencia con la práctica del yoga y con la filosofía. Que esto mismo también se puede ver, por ejemplo, en América, cuando se hace un turismo que va dentro de las bebidas,
de la
toma de la medicina, que hacen un tipo de turismo enfocado con esa conexión, que tampoco es coherente porque es algo sagrado y es algo que se debe respetar y no se debe tomar tan a la ligera un conocimiento ancestral.
Thank you, teacher. Can we have time for a question from Jesus?
Yeah.
It's in English.
It's in English. It's in English. I can read it for you. What do you think about the fact that it's not always practice yoga could be so expensive in some schools? If you say it's so important to have a good master, what happens when this kind of good masters in the West teach earning a lot of money? What happens when the money could be a wall for a possible good student? Sorry, teacher, I will say in Spanish maybe for the people. ¿Qué piensas? Jesús pregunta, gracias Jesús. Pregunta acerca del hecho de que en la práctica de yoga actual puede ser bastante costosa en algunas escuelas de yoga. Si usted dice que es tan importante tener un buen profesor, entonces, ¿qué pasa cuando este tipo de buen profesor en el occidente, en la cultura occidental, enseña ganando mucho dinero? ¿Sí? ¿Qué pasa cuando ese dinero puede ser como una barrera para un posible buen estudiante?
Jesús es muy malo. Naughty boy. See, first of all, I am not one of the Western teachers, so I don't know what they do. And I think he's talking about some of the very expensive training programs in America and things like that. Because my experience is actually not that, because I don't focus on these kind of teachers who call themselves good masters. I know many teachers in Europe, they are Westerners as well, who are not necessarily charging a lot of money, but they teach very high quality teachings. And some of them have trained with us over the last years. So the situation is not that just because somebody is popular and expensive that they are a good master. We must not get seduced by that. So that is, on the one hand, I would say that is the reality. On the other hand, there's also this reality that I've seen, that unless people of today are charged a reasonable price, they don't value the teachings. So in some ways, we also have a saying in India, if you pay peanuts, you will get monkeys. since you know. So we have to be careful, and what we need to focus on is not whether something is expensive or not, something is not expensive, but to rather look at what is the value that the teacher is bringing, what is the value that the teacher is bringing in terms of the teaching, and more importantly, in terms of the transformation of the person. And I would definitely not suggest that people just go after a teacher only because they are famous or they come in different magazines or things like that, because I know there is quite a number of teachers who are also very, very good, but who don't necessarily feature themselves in magazines and other internet channels and things like that. So we need to be very careful about and discerning about who we choose as our teachers.
El profesor Kausthub dice que no necesariamente porque un profesor sea muy famoso en las redes sociales o que tenga muchísimos seguidores o que aparezca en revistas, que aparezca en noticias o en televisión, no necesariamente puede ser un buen profesor. Pero también hay, por supuesto, muy buenos profesores que no necesariamente son muy conocidos, ¿sí? Entonces, que tenemos que tener mucha precaución con este tipo, digamos, de mercadeo del yoga, en el cual, pues, se vende mucho a través de esa manipulación, digamos, mental, de que si tienes muchos seguidores o apareces en muchas revistas o en sitios, pues será un buen profesor. No necesariamente ese es el caso. Entonces es muy importante poder escoger bien a nuestro profesor que te enseñe de una manera, como hablábamos antes, pues consciente, holística, con integridad, y que no necesariamente un buen profesor tiene que cobrar demasiado tampoco, ¿sí? Y no necesariamente el que cobra mucho es un buen profesor. Entonces esa es como la respuesta para Jesús. ¿Sí?
And what I also want to say is that a good teacher, even if they are expensive, will always find a way to accommodate the sincere student.
Si el profesor, incluso aunque se pudiese considerar que cobra bastante o que cobra pues por su conocimiento, un buen profesor siempre va a encontrar la manera de ayudar al estudiante sincero. Es muy importante esto que dice el profesor. Si el estudiante es sincero, honesto y comprometido, el profesor siempre va a encontrar la manera de que, aunque tal vez cobre costoso, pueda ayudarle al estudiante sincero a llegar a ese camino. También él mencionaba que no necesariamente porque un teacher training o un profesor cobre barato, a veces la gente puede no precisamente hacer el efecto contrario, no valorar esa enseñanza, ¿sí? Entonces, que porque cobras muy económico, también se puede llegar a pensar que esta persona cobra como barato, entonces como que tal vez no sea tan bueno, ¿sí? Entonces, hay las dos caras de la moneda siempre, todo el tiempo en este campo. Entonces, es como hacer la conexión, la autenticidad con tu profesor y, como mencionaba él, si tú eres un estudiante sincero, encontrarás un profesor que te colabore en la medida de lo que le sea posible al profesor, por supuesto.
Allow me, teacher, to ask you probably the last question for you, but it will be based on the books that you wrote to your father, you really love, and almost in the last page, some student asked Desikachar to your father what his role has been in the world of yoga. And he told them, I am a postman. I'm just delivering my father's great teachings to the next generation. If I finish this task successfully, I will be the happiest person. If we ask to you what his role has been in the world of yoga, what do you mean at this point of time?
What my father's role of yoga has been.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. He said he is a postman. What do you believe is your role now?
Is my role or my father's role? I don't understand. What is the question?
Well, my question goes, if And a student asks your father what his role has been in the world of yoga.
That part I understand, but what is the question?
And for you, what do you believe is your role right
My
now,
role.
this point of time? Yes.
My role is to be the next postman, I guess. Because you see, a postman is all only delivering from one post office to the next and to the next to the next until it goes till the final destination. And at the current moment, I think that final destination is not yet fully clear because I believe that right now yoga is on the verge of a dark era. Though there can be there is two diverse approaches of yoga that is happening in the name of yoga. One approach is the very modern, superficial, artificial light approach that is happening in the name of yoga, and at the same time there's also a serious community of people such as yourself and many others you are touching the hearts of, who are interested to go deeper and deeper. So there is these two diverse tracks that is happening, and my role has been very clear, is to not to focus on the superficial world of yoga, but to guide those who are more serious in the world of yoga to go deeper. And what I am doing is I'm just waiting for the people to pass this passage and come to the point where they are ready to learn things which at a very serious level. That is what is my role. And if I do that, that's enough for me.
El profesor dice que, bueno, Andrés preguntaba que su padre, el maestro T.K.V. Desikachar, alguna vez un estudiante le preguntó, ¿cuál es tu rol en el yoga hoy en día? Y él decía, soy como un cartero, ¿sí? Como un poste, un cartero. Y el profesor Desikachar también dice eso, que él espera ser como el próximo cartero que entrega, digamos, este conocimiento, todavía no sabe bien cuál será el destino final. Considera que desafortunadamente en estos momentos actuales, la mayoría del yoga que se está viendo está atravesando por una etapa un poco oscura, porque se está enfocando solamente en el aspecto del asana, en el aspecto físico, en el aspecto publicitario, del marketing, es más superficial. Entonces, espera que, por supuesto, él como el próximo cartero pueda entregar, digamos, el conocimiento o la carta de yoga a su destino final y que esta fase oscura, pues, pueda pasar pronto, ¿sí? Y que así pues pueda seguir tocando los corazones de los buscadores sinceros y de los estudiantes sinceros de yoga que quieren ir hacia un camino un poco más profundo y trascendencia.
If we have to talk in the in terms of Star Wars, I am part of the resistance.
Él dice que es como la película de Star Wars, es parte de la resistencia.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very interesting. Well, it has been an incredible hour with you, teacher. Thank you so much. And
hope you had some fun.
Yes.
Very good, very good. I'm very happy.
Nice, thank you so much. So we will end this conversation if you allow us to hear again your beautiful chantings. That will be awesome for us.
I try my best.
Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay. Shanno Mitra Shamvarunah Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukkramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्माम् अवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste.
Many thanks.
Thank you very much, teacher. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And hope it's not the last time. Hope to see you again soon.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Bye bye for now.
Chao.
Namaste.